Well, we have started with one observation. Europe is ill. Is it an illness unto death? We do not know for sure. Vaccines saved us for a while. We know, however, that this pandemic is not the last one we will experience in our lifetime. Climate change and violence to the nature are making our environment more and more difficult to live in. And this will probably favor the eruption of other similar or dissimilar diseases in the coming years. The increased volumes of all different kinds of traffic, professional and commercial movements of persons, migrants, tourism, cause new diseases to spread rapidly throughout the world. They will reach us. Will vaccines save us again? By the way, are vaccines really saving us? Jeremy was not of this opinion. We have learned that vaccines are useful, but we still need to rely on measures of social distancing, of disease control, of tempestive identification and isolation of the infected, and of those who have been in contact with them. We have learned that until everybody has not been vaccinated, nobody is sure. We belong, after all, to only one human species. All this implies a high level of community integration, of social discipline, of confidence between the rulers and the ruled, of relations within an harmonized society. Jeffrey Sachs, at a certain point, raised the issue of what is freedom. Can we think of a freedom that is not a freedom in the relation to others within a community, and in which the good of the community, the good of the other, is part of my good, and I am not free of doing whatever I wish. And wishes that run against the common good are not authentic, are not authentically human, they are not really authentic mind. This is our illness. It is a relational disease. Why do we live close to each other? T.S. Eliot asks this question in The Choruses from the Rock. And he answers, because we love each other, or just to make money one out of the other? Can we say we are a community? The ancients would say that we have no religion. Not only the ancients. In the ancient sense of the word religion, that comes from the Latin, religare, to bind together. We are not bound together. We do not recognize any value that binds us together. Freedom without values. Many people do not want to be vaccinated. The pretexts are many, but the real reason is a profound feeling of diffidence towards the political authorities, toward the scientists, toward everybody. They are angry, they feel isolated, alienated, not taken into account, defenseless, alone. Many turn against the European Union, making it responsible for the changes that they feel threatened from. They are wrong, but not completely. They are wrong when they think that the European Union is responsible for their sufferings, and when they imagine the old national states could offer them the protection and the feeling of togetherness they are longing for. They are not wrong, however, when they accuse the Union of not delivering on the political goods it has promised, and whose offering is the real reason why it exists. And here I do not agree with you, Philip. I don't think that politicians have real power. Take the United States. In the United States, when people go to vote, they decide on peace and war, on prosperity or economic difficulties. In Europe, they do not decide on very much because we have taken the sovereignty from national parliaments. They're not really sovereign anymore, but we have not given it to the European Parliament. It is remained in the between. And people demand, and politicians very often don't know how they can answer. that's the reason why people do not trust politics anymore. It is wrong to say politicians are all corrupt. It is a kind of negative apology of the existing state of affairs. If we cannot do anything, then there is the best possible state of affairs. Our problem is not that we have too much Europe. It is rather the fact that we do not have enough Europe. The construction of Europe has remained halfway. And as all uncompleted constructions, now it has begun to decay and threatens to fall apart. The COVID crisis, from this point of view, caused a positive reaction. The European Green Deal is a sign of hope, of which we are proud. The program for the recovery of our economies shows a remarkable measure of solidarity. Perhaps we are seeing again the right path. It is not enough, however. To invert the mood in the depth of our societies, we need a further bold step forward. The Green Deal is good, the recovery plan is good, but we need a European social policy. We need a common European social policy. And Pope Francis offered us a fundamental orientation, what we should do, not what we should do rather, the purpose that we should pursue. Tierra, techo, trabajo, land, home, and work. The Union must guarantee that every human being born in this land will have enough to eat, a home to live in, and a job, a subsistence income for all, a possibility to find a job for those who can work, a decent salary for all workers. This is the practical recognition of the value of the human person that should stand in the center of the European construction and of the European project. The value of the human person becomes visible when you pay a reasonable wage. Laborem exercens. Well, it is a translation a little bit ad sensum, but substantially faithful to the original. We need one step. There are other steps. We need a common foreign policy. We need a common cooperation policy. We need a common immigration policy. We need a lot of other things. We need a common fiscal policy. We cannot have a recovery plan of this magnitude. How can we manage the resulting public debt if we do not have a common fiscal policy? We need many things, but I think a common social policy is the first step, because it tells to the people who now feel alienated, we care for you, you are important, Europe is for you. And if you take interest into their situation, they will take interest into the future of Europe. And we need a new idea of the common good. The respect of the human person finds its expression in the protection of workers, of the poor. But on the other hand, how can we have common values if we have not, in one sense, the recognition of an anthropology that is different for the neoliberal one or from the dominating one? I belong to myself. This is the dominating anthropology. How poor is a man who belongs really only to himself? A rich human life is the life of a man who belongs to his wife, to his children, to his father, to his mother, to his friends, to his parish church, to his city, to his nation, to Europe, and to humanity at large in the end. We need a new idea of the common good. The common good is not just the national product. It is not just a sum of the individual goods. A common good arises when you have a man for whom the good of the other is part of his own good. The good of my wife is part of my own good. I cannot think of my personality without including in the idea of my personal good, the good of the people I love, starting with my wife and my children, my sisters and their children, and going along to my friends, to Monsignor Sánchez Sorondo, to many others, to all of you, and then the city of Rome, and in circles that become progressively broader. And that is the ultimate root. People do not have today a communal personality. Why don't they have that? Because of television, because of the dominating culture, because of many reasons. But perhaps the most fundamental reason is that nobody cares for them, and then they do not want to care for anything. And so a true social policy can be a beginning to let people feel you are precious, somebody cares for you. And then perhaps they will start taking care of themselves, of their neighbors, and of Europe. Thank you.
Sorry, the president asked his very complicated task to say something as conclusion. But I agree with the conclusion that this previous conclusion that say Rocco. But I want to say more of the point of view theological, not solo anthropological and social, but also theological. That is in the magisterium of the Pope. And also in the vision that a person does not belong to the European countries, but admire the European countries for this. And the fundamental thesis is that religion, especially Christianity, is the soul of the European countries. So if we lost the soul and put at the soul only the human being, and a human being that is not more created by God, but is like a matter that we can do, it's a product, as say Pope Benedict, that we can use without rules, only with the only rule to have power or to have money. It's clear that the things are completely different, and the European countries lost his soul. So I think there are many many crises to affect the European countries, the Europe. And it's in the end the division, but the division, not the just division, but the division at level religious, but also at civil level. What is the division at civil level for me? There are natural divisions in the European countries. And we see this, especially with the COVID. What is the reason that have this kind of frontiers for the vaccine, for the other thing, when we don't have frontiers with the communication of the virus? So there are divisions. But also, civil life is marked by a consequence of secularist ideologies, especially those of the single thought, pensée unique, that Pope Francis many times speak, that go to the denial of God or the limitation of religion freedom. You know that Gallagher speak about the limitation of religion freedom. And when come here in Pompeii to say, please, not renew the agreement with China because they are atheists, Gallagher say, yes, maybe they are atheists and criticize the Christian religion, but we have here more word against the religion that's in China. That say Gallagher. They no respect today in the European countries, according to Gallagher, no respect the religious freedom. So, and the preponderance of economic success, money over the human values and the work of the production and the distribution of the production. Also materialism and hedonism, which attack the values of the prolific and united family, he say, and also Pier Paolo say that we need to consider human being as, say Aristotle, zoon politikon, but the first cell of the zoon politikon is the family. We need to put the family at the center, as say in the social doctrine of the church. So, and also a nihilistic philosophy. This is really was of the concern of the Pope Benedict. Many times say Nietzsche has an influence terrible. Is one of the philosophers to have massive influence today. That disarm and not give force to resolve the crucial problems for the new poor, migrants, that minorities, ethical and religious, and the problem of media say all things. We have a meeting here about post-truth, and it's an intentional thing that we have in the media to promote the false truth. So it is a terrible thing. And of course, all these things are the terrorism, that is clear. So we think that if we come back, as say this Pope, to the soul of the European countries, we can have a fantastic model for all countries in Europe. And this was said just Angela Merkel yesterday in the meeting of the embassy, in the German embassy, and quoted Cardinal Cusano with the difference and the unity in the difference, but the unity just in this soul. And Angela Merkel said in religion, because with religion we can have this brick that we need to respect all the affirmation that we have in the European countries, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the European Declaration of Human Rights, the final act of the Conference of Security Cooperation in Europe, and all the other things that we heard in these days, but especially to put also renew the constitution and to put the real funds of the soul of the European countries. So if the European countries come back to this, come back to his soul, come back to himself, as say John Paul II, really we can have a fantastic Europe that could be a model for all countries, that because his incredible history to have, where we can say, as say the philosopher, Spanish philosopher Ortega said, the European discovered the human being. And I think that is true, but discovered the human being because there are this transcendental relation of person. So what is, I don't want to be pessimist, and I can repeat the thing that say Pope Benedict. My reason to be happy, my reason to have hope is because it's impossible to disappear this desire of God that is in the soul of all people, all persons. And as says St. Augustine, only in God our soul could have satisfaction. And this agitation that exists today is just because we can read, is just because it's a research of God. So in the end, what is the solution? I think the solution is Benedict. I prefer to say the truth. I consider Francis an incredible high saint because participate also of the cross of Christ and these things. But I prefer Benedict as constructor, as building of the European countries. I prefer the Benedictines than the Franciscans, so to say the truth. And we need to come back to the Benedictine ora et labora. And this is the real solution. And really ora, because I was scandalized, to say the truth, that in all these crises, the government not speak about our need to pray to God to help us to resolve this problem, because are so big that we can resolve only with our force. Thank you very much.